LPRs exam, someone may ask a question like this. What impacts does the aviation industry have on the environment? Many people may respond something like this. ก็อะไรนะ airplanes that cause air pollution and they how to say use a lot of fuel. Now, for the content, is actually a pretty good answer. Airplanes cause air pollution, and they use a lot of fuel. So, the content is good, but what we'll look at today are these type things. ก็อะไรนะแบบ how to say, these type things make this not a good answer because it's not fluent English. So, by fluent, we mean about fluency, which means the ability to speak easily and smoothly. So, this response here was not easy or smooth. So, today's lesson will be about discourse markers and fillers. What do we mean by that? If we look at the criteria under the fluency markers, to get level 4 or level 5, we have some specific things we need to be able to do. So for level 4, can make limited use of discourse markers or connectors, and fillers are not distracting. For level 5, can make use of appropriate discourse markers or connectors. So what does this mean? Let's look at some examples. If we see these would be types of discourse markers, but they're not very good ones. What do I mean? So first of all, ก็อะไรนะ why do we say that? Well, probably because you need time to think about your answer. So when you need time to think about your answer, consider using these phrases. Let me see. Let me think. Or, that's a good question. All of these are phrases that you can use to stall or give you some time to think before you answer. Also, you might say, or, well. These are also types of fillers that you can use to add a little bit more time. So instead of ก็อะไรนะ you could say, let me see. Airplanes, or let me think. Airplanes cause, or that's a good question. Airplanes cause, you see the idea. For now, we'll stick with let me see. No, let me see. Airplanes cause air pollution. Again, why do we say this one? The idea is because you're not finished speaking. You want to show that there's more to come and that you're thinking about the next idea. So in English, for this type of function, we say things like or So instead of cause air pollution, we'd say, let me see. Airplanes cause air pollution. Or airplanes cause air pollution. So these two, they're not actually words in English, they're just sounds. But these are fillers that we use, and they sound much more natural than trying to use Thai fillers. So if you get in the habit of using these, it will sound more natural and more fluent. However, one thing is we say, can be too many. Remember that for level 4, we need to say that fillers are not distracting. So if you have too many fillers, it will be distracting. So maybe just use one. Also in this response, we see, let me see. Airplanes cause air pollution, and they, how to say, use a lot of fuel. The function here is because maybe you don't know the word in English, but we shouldn't say how to say because it's not proper grammar. So when you don't know the word, consider using these phrases. I'm not sure how to say it in English. Or, I can't remember the English word. By using these phrases, even though you don't know the word, you're using proper English to tell us that. Even better, though, would be a paraphrase or circumlocution, which is where you just go around the word and not try to explain that you don't know. So for example, I'm not sure how to say it in English, use a lot of fuel. But we could just cut this and say, and they use a lot of fuel, because use a lot of fuel maybe is your circumlocution for เปลืองน้ำมัน. Now, let's look at another question. What do you do to manage fatigue? You might say, I try to get enough sleep. However, this is rather obvious. Everyone knows that you should try to get enough sleep so you're not fatigued. So, when your answer is obvious, you can consider using these discourse markers. Of course, obviously, as you know, here's how you can use them. Of course, I tried to get enough sleep and I ... Or, obviously, I tried to get enough sleep and I ... Let's look at another type. Exercise is very important to maintain your energy level. How often do you exercise? In the exam, if you say, I almost never exercise, notice that you're probably feeling a little bit shy or bashful. And the reason is that your answer isn't what the listener expects. The listener would probably expect you to say, oh, I go to the gym, I do many things. But this isn't what the listener expects. So consider using these discourse markers. To be honest, or actually, let's look at an example. Instead of saying, I almost never exercise, to be honest, I almost never exercise. Or, actually, I almost never exercise. So again, if your answer is surprising or not what the listener expects, consider to be honest or actually. Let's look at another. Is it true that being an air traffic controller is the most stressful job in the world? Maybe we have this answer. Actually, I think there are many stressful jobs in the world. Police, teachers, politicians, especially politicians, because and anyway, no, I don't think being an ATC is the most stressful job in the world. Now, notice that sometimes people will continue to talk a lot. They really extend their answers and digress from the topic a little bit. So here we use the word anyway. Why do we say anyway? The idea is that you want to finish or summarize or go back to the topic and go back and answer the question clearly. Here are some discourse markers that you can use to do that, to finish or to summarize or to go back to the question. Anyway, in other words, what I mean is, so again, anyway, no, I don't think being an air traffic controller. Or, in other words, no, I don't think being an air traffic controller is. Or, What I mean is no. I don't think being an air traffic controller is the most stressful job in the world. Let's look at one more. Who works harder, local controllers or radar controllers? Radar controllers work harder because... Now, in this situation, we could say that this is an opinion, because some people may say that local controllers work harder. Some people may say that radar controllers work harder. So in this situation, it's really just the interviewee's opinion. Here are some phrases we can use for giving an opinion. Of course, we can say, in my opinion. Now, let's look at a pronunciation tip for this. This is a very common phrase, and you should be very comfortable and show off your pronunciation skills here. In this phrase, the word my is very important because it's my opinion that's important, not your opinion or his opinion. It's my opinion. Also, in the word opinion, the second syllable is stressed. Notice we say, in my opinion. เราไม่ได้พูดว่า opinion ไม่ใช่ครับเป็น in my opinion. Think about it as my pin, in my opinion. So we have in my opinion, I think, or if you ask me. So let's look at these in context. Who works harder, local controllers or radar controllers? In my opinion, radar controllers work harder because they have to or I think radar controllers work harder because, or if you ask me, radar controllers work harder because. One thing to note, in my opinion, I think radar controllers, we shouldn't do this because in my opinion and I think mean basically the same thing. So it would be redundant to say both of them. So that's it for today's lesson on discourse markers. So remember to practice these and use them in your exam to make sure you can get that 4, 5, or even 6 on fluency. Thank you for your time and see you next time. ขอบคุณครับ